Hello, this is Bill, Cannabis IPO guy. Listen, I want to give you a quick introduction about myself, and I want to talk to you about this amazing opportunity that we have in the United States right now, and that is the cannabis stock industry. Specifically, I like to focus on cannabis IPOs. I'll talk to you a little bit about what those are, but I'm very passionate about this industry. But before I get into that, let me just give you a little bit of background on me. If you would have asked me 2-3 years ago if I invested in many stocks or if I wanted to get into the stock market, I would have said, my attitude was so-so. I do have an entrepreneurial background. I have a background in the legal industry, a 20-year background in civil rights. I have a background in the electricity and natural gas industry, and I have a background in the telecommunications industry. I was around when the telecommunications industry deregulated. I'm getting up there in age. I'm 50 years young. So I saw the deregulation of the telecommunications industry when AT&T used to own everything, and it was broken up, and MCI came along, Sprint came along, Excel Communications came along. And I also saw the deregulation of the electricity industry, and we're really still seeing the effects of that right now. But I have backgrounds in those industries, backgrounds in health and wellness, and my background, my entrepreneurial experience, I've owned a few businesses. Years ago, I started what I believe was one of the first, if not the first, Bitcoin multi-level marketing company. Unfortunately, to my shame, because the Bitcoin market was so volatile back then, I allowed myself to be talked out of that venture, and it's something that still haunts me today because, if I would have hung on to the last of my Bitcoins, around 200 that I had left, I probably would have over $3 million today. As you know, Bitcoin went up to $15,000 a coin at one point, and now I think it's right around $4,000 a coin. So I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I have an activist background as well, and so I get turned off of industries and companies that have unethical standards and things of that nature, and so if I see a company or an industry that has some moral or unethical issues, it kind of turns me off. But I try to stay abreast of what I feel are the opportunities that come along only once in a lifetime. Bitcoin was one of them. And again, to my shame, I got out of that industry, and I should have stayed in it. This is an industry that I'm not going to miss. I'm not going to miss this opportunity, and I'm encouraging all of you to listen carefully to the things that I have to say. I can promise you, on both my YouTube channel and on this website, on my website, cannabisipoguy.com, I can promise you rich content. I do my due diligence, and I do a lot of thorough research, and I discuss things that people want to know, and I believe I have a lot to offer. What I'm going to focus on is upcoming cannabis IPO stocks. These are an IPO is an initial public offering that a company makes, and that allows you to buy the company's shares at a lower rate than you would normally have an opportunity to buy it at when it goes public on the exchange. Now, traditionally, in times past, it's very difficult for the average person to get in at the IPO stage. You had to have a broker that was involved or had access to that company's IPO offering, and you had to have some money. You had to have a lot of money. Sometimes $5,000, sometimes even more. And today, I've found some things that change that, so that now you can get in at the IPO stage, and you can get in without even paying $1,000 now. I've found a few little secret avenues to get in on the IPO stage, but I will tell you this. Some of the cannabis companies that I'm researching, even if you were to get in that company when it first goes public. If you get into the right cannabis IPOs, folks, I can tell you right now, not even the IPO stage, if you get into the right cannabis stock when it's first going public and you invest the right amount of money, I can tell you right now, folks, people are literally becoming millionaires in this industry. This is not an exaggeration, okay? There are people in the United States and in Canada that are becoming millionaires from investing in the right companies. Now, one of the things that I will talk to you about is the fact that there are front runners out there. We all know who the front runners are: Canopy Growth, Tilray, Afria, Aurora. Those companies got out there, they created a big splash. Some of them went straight up and some of them came down a little bit after the bubble was burst. But you got to understand this, folks. This is a brand new industry, and some of you stock analysts that are watching this, some of you are incredibly intelligent. Okay, you can analyze, you know the stock market for the last 15 years and you're really good. But you got to analyze this industry right now at this stage of the game as a venture capitalist. And a venture capitalist looks at certain things to be able to tell whether or not they want to invest in a company. And my approach at looking at whether or not a cannabis stock is going to succeed, the first thing I start with is the management team. I'm looking for a management team that has global experience, bringing companies to, over in the multiple billions of dollars. I'm looking for a management team that has a strong investment banking background, who has handled billions of dollars worth of transactions. I'm looking for a management team that has strong retail, upper level management that has handled, packaged goods companies in the billions that have, I'm looking for management teams that have intelligent scientists on board. I'm also looking for, a company that has patents in place. I'm looking for a company that has a wide footprint, that understands that the players are going to be, you're going to have a large footprint. You're going to have exclusive licenses. Your footprint needs to be large already right now in the United States and Canada, but also over in Europe. So I believe that I found many, many companies that, even though they're not on the exchanges yet, these companies have been quietly positioning themselves. And I've said in some of my videos, and you're going to hear it, the race isn't given to the swift or the strong, and to those that get out of the gate fast necessarily. The race is given to those who have access to capital, have incredible management teams, have already established a large footprint, have diversified products, patents, and have the ability to execute. And these are companies that are, again, their management teams are the master class. Now, some of these management teams and some of the companies that I will recommend are better than others, but that doesn't mean that the management teams aren't great and that the companies that I'm going to recommend aren't positioned to explode and dominate. I'm super excited about this. There's also a little secret out there about cannabis REITs that I'll talk about. And that is something that I don't think anybody in the industry is talking about right now as far as cannabis stock analysis goes. Folks, we won't have another opportunity like this in our lifetime. The cannabis industry is, there's all kinds of numbers out there. My numbers are telling me in the United States alone, the cannabis industry will be an $800 billion industry. And some people say that'll happen in under 10 years. Folks, I think it's going to happen right around the 5 to 7 year mark. I think within 5 to 7 years, the United States will have a market cap of about $800 billion. I wouldn't even say that's the limit. You have to remember something. This industry is going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs. You don't just have the medical marijuana industry and the recreational marijuana industry. You have, you have gummy bears, you have pick and shovel companies, you have all kinds of other businesses that are going to get started as a result of the cannabis industry. So this industry is bigger than we can imagine. Now, you also need to understand that these companies that I'm going to recommend to you are already established and ready to go in Europe. Europe has a bigger market. You have to wrap your brain around this. Europe will have a bigger market than the United States and Canada combined. Right now, I know of a market that has over 600 million people over in Europe. You're talking, folks, that will be a $1 trillion industry over in Europe alone. Okay? Everybody that gets in cannabis stock, the right cannabis companies that are well positioned with strong management teams, everybody that invests in this industry now intelligently, folks, we all stand to make potentially more money than we've ever made in our lives from this industry. I want to encourage you always to do your due diligence, but I'm reaching out to average people out there. I'm certainly reaching out to wealthy people that are busy. I'm taking the time to go through these companies from top to bottom. I'm going through their management teams. I'll be talking to you about their backgrounds. I'm going through their financials. I'm going through their product line. I'm going through their footprint, and I'm giving you a thorough case for why you should invest in this company. I'm comparing these companies to other companies, and by the time you get done my videos, you're going to know that you have listened to some rich content, and hopefully you'll feel the need to come back for more, because I can promise you, I'm talking about companies, okay? Let me just tell you one thing. I'm going to be talking about companies that are, there might be a couple of big ones, but 2019 is going to be the year for smaller cannabis companies that are well positioned. They're going to catch up to some of those front runners, and you're going to want to be involved in some of these companies. And I won't get into all the reasons why some of the smaller cannabis companies are going to start to explode in 2019. There's very good reasons for that. There's some challenges that some of the front runners who are already out there on the exchanges are going to be facing right now. And I won't get into some of the struggles that they're going to be facing, but the companies that have had an opportunity to sit back and watch the struggles and challenges that those front runners are facing now have the opportunity to get out there and do things a little bit differently. So I hope that you will join me. This is an incredible time to be alive. You got to remember, your great-grandfather or even your grandfather and even some of our fathers and mothers, they unfortunately weren't around to see the legalization and the commercialization of the cannabis industry. This industry is going to change people's lives. If you haven't heard some of the videos about what this industry is doing as far as medical breakthroughs for people with epilepsy, children with epilepsy, there's some beautiful things that are happening from this industry. The cannabis plant, folks, is not just about wacky tobacco and getting high from the THC in the plant. You have to understand that this is going to open up research for all of the universities around the world to now really dig into this plant. There's something like over 40 different cannabinoids within the plant alone, each offering incredible breakthroughs in different areas of medicine. People that are suffering from multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and I already mentioned epilepsy. So the sky's the limit on what this is going to do for mankind around the globe. And you want to be involved in it. You want to invest in companies that are going to be around in the long term, but you can also make some very good money on the short term. Now understand this. The United States government is getting ready, mark my words, they're getting ready to fully legalize cannabis. HR 420 was a bill that was just introduced into the House. It's called into Congress, it's called the Regulate Cannabis Like Alcohol Act. And folks, it's expected to pass, okay? And when it does pass, that's going to be a seismic trigger that is going to cause the right cannabis stocks to go through the roof. You want to have investments in cannabis companies when the United States fully legalizes cannabis. It's a great time to be alive. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm Bill, the Cannabis IPO guy. Come along with me, okay? I have some incredible companies to talk about. I already have 2 right now up on my website, and those are incredible companies, but I am super excited to talk to you about a few others. The companies that I have dug deep and researched that people don't think will, maybe you've never even heard of some of these companies. These are companies you want to get into because it'll change your life if you get into the right companies. Thanks for tuning in. Join me. Come along for this wild ride. It's going to be super exciting. We'll see you on the other side. Click the link below. We'll talk with you soon. Take care.